Are we recording? You know, this
It's just a random conversation. We don't have to do it officially.
No. Well, that's how this is going to flow anyway. But this guy, Tiamar Binder, my dad was obsessed with me going and meeting this guy because he essentially escaped the USSR with like a patented carburetor, like on a motorcycle. Whatever. I think I asked him that question. I got to see him right before he died. But his big thing was he was an architect and he designed a house in North Brunswick, New Jersey, that was like perfectly balanced and made of like cement, and it was all curved in the right way, so you didn't even need to heat it in the winter or summer, whatever. You didn't need to do any of the temperature control. I mean, it looked nice. I didn't really get a chance to test it out, but I think his house is still out there somewhere, just like a random thing.
And he made it on his own?
He designed and built his house, after he had escaped here in like the 1980s or something. I don't know how my dad came to know this person. Maybe through like architecture or something, but as a side random thing.
That's so cool. Like, you don't know what cool guy you meet, and you realize, okay, I met this person, and he was a like really cool guy and has done something really amazing. Yeah.
It was, you don't know what these people can impart to anything. It makes for a fun story. And right around the time that was happening, I was listening to a lot of this thing called Radio Lab on NPR.
Okay, what is this?
It was just like these two guys, and they have really good audio quality. It was this guy Robert Krulwich and some other person, and they would just cover one random topic. Like one was about numbers and how people think about numbers, and it was like it was just like well produced and kind of mind bending, which I love. And I was like, oh, you know what? I want to be a reporter or like a investigative person. This is like I was in high school when I met this guy. So I went and I like did that and I recorded the whole interview. I don't know where that is when I was asking this guy about his like life, this old man, but it's,
How old were you at that time?
I was probably just 18. I was like just turning 18, maybe 17, 18. So I don't know. It was like
So like I really had this question because it's rare you find people like this who are motivated. So like you were telling me that you were 18 at that time and you did this thing. You were like basically proactive in doing something which you wanted to do, and you see very less of these kind of people, right?
It's a rarity to meet them, but it's a pleasure when I do, know. And when you do, I try to latch on to them. That's another reason I came to do this thing, because it's like, when you meet I call them wizards. So there's a weird, I think I told you about this last time when we were talking, but there's like a concept I have about like wizards, and they're people who can bend reality. And it's really what people can do with their charisma and with their attitude. And, if they have the right one, then I call them wizards, because they can bend the world around them. And I try to be a wizard. And whenever I meet wizards, I try to like learn what I can from them. There's a guy I know called Sam who does this. There's a guy who I used to work for named Bill. They just have that certain something. A friend of mine named Phil also has it, and I tell them that they're wizards now. And maybe it inflated their ego too much. I don't know.
That's interesting concept, because I have realized this about myself, that I tend to make better friends with the people who are like very motivated, self-motivated and secure in themselves. And you are secure in yourself when you are working towards something. And because that work which you are putting in some work, any of the thing makes you secure about yourself. But when you are not doing anything, when you are not growing in your life, it gives that dissatisfaction to yourself, and you tend to become insecure about things around you.
It's like a poison, it kind of infects the other parts of your life. And this is actually the number one motto that I have in my life right now is it's a definition of happiness. Because there's something in America, it's like the pursuit of happiness, and from my understanding, happiness was kind of an ephemeral feeling. It's like a chemical balance in your head. It's not really something to be chased after. It doesn't have a lot of merit. But there's another definition of happiness that I've stolen from a series of TV. So the most credible source I've gotten it from is JFK. So he said it during some kind of commencement speech. But I actually got it from a sci-fi TV show called Babylon 5. And this is one of those things that's kind of like fuel in my personal nuclear reactor. It's happiness is the exercise of vital powers along lines of excellence in a life affording them scope. So it's a long quote. It's I think a Greek quote. I don't know what it actually is in Greek. But like broken down, it's the thing that keeps me going, because I've kind of been like, why am I doing any of this? Why am I going through all this stress of trying to start a company? Why am I going through the stress of doing all these weird jobs and stuff like that? But it's because I feel most satisfied and happy in life when I'm exercising my vital powers, using those skills that I got along lines of excellence. I'm not handicapped for having to do them in like a shitty way, because I just don't have a lot of time or energy, or the job I have is restrictive and they tell me I have to work these hours only. And then in a life affording them scope is the meaningful part of it. If you're able to put these skills to use in a way that it's like you have a like there's some kind of good impact to the world and to others that way. So if I can hit all those boxes, you know, in anything that I'm doing in my job, then I find myself motivated, and it makes me happy, and it makes me you know, able to make friends easier, and everything kind of just falls into place. So that's kind of a secret sauce thing that I have.
Right. And okay, so do you think in this way that when you want to make the world a better place, or when you try to put something out in the community, you have to make yourself better first? And this is something which I have heard from Jordan Peterson. So Jordan Peterson is like one of the great psychologists, and he does a lot of lectures around the globe. And I heard this from that because he was involved in a lot of debates of climate change and everything. And he used to the kids of from universities used to argue with him, like debate him, you know.
Yeah, I've seen
the
videos
US colleges. So he used to tell them like, you are fighting for a cause, but you are not even true to yourself. First, wake up in the morning and make your bed. So, you know, like the idea of this communicates because you have to improve yourself first, then you are going to improve the community. So how do you think about this idea? Firstly, do you agree with this? And if you agree, how do you relate this thing with yourself? Because I have seen you, whatever we talked last time, that you are very productive, you are very consistent, you are very disciplined in your life. Because when you were telling me about your affirmations and everything, I was fucking motivated, like how this guy's like doing all this thing, and I really want to learn from you and get into that grind mode. So what do you think?
There's a lot in there, and I actually read Peterson's 12 Rules for Life book, and that
best book ever.
Well, it hit me at like a particular time, and it kind of like it was just another like ratcheting of me, you know, getting things like I guess cranked up, you know. In terms, I can't remember exactly when. Maybe it was 2018 when I read it, but it reinforces an idea that I have, and I can't remember who I stole this from, but it's something called like spheres of influence. And at the first step, you take care of yourself so nobody else has to. I don't know if that's somebody else's problem. So that's like the number one. And some people, that's as far as they get, or maybe people never get that far. But before I can start looking out, I got to get that stuff taken care of. It's like, there's other quotes like, be selfish because, you know, you have permission to be selfish until you have your own stuff taken care of, you know. And I'm just starting to get past that first circle. So the first circle is take care of yourself so no one else has to. Then the second circle is you can take care of your family, then your community, then your country, then the world. You know, you kind of work your way out from here. Right. It's almost like that. Not to get too far off, but there's a science fiction term about like the levels of societies, and one is like you can harness the power of your planet, then you can harness the power of your solar system, and then you can harness. There's a whole thing like that, but it works in your own personal life too. You know, so. I agree with the like get your own stuff in order first, and a lot of these big questions like climate change and stuff like that, they're bigger than I can usually fit into my head at any given time. So I tend to be like, okay, I'm going to focus on what I can do and what I have control over, because that usually keeps me happier if I feel like I'm in control.
Something like very controversial coming in my mind, and I'm not sure if I want to say this, but I think not a lot of people, but there are a few people who attach themselves, who get married to these ideas, these kind of ideas of whatever is going on in the world right now, climate change, a lot of things. Some of them are like, you know, I may be wrong, but some of them are like not secure of themselves, and they want to find a purpose because they think that they are not good enough, and they want to attach themselves to some sort of, you know, virtue signaling. And they tend to marry themselves with the idea which is so popular in the world right now, and think of like, you know what, if I'm attached to this thing, I have relevance. And this is why like few of them, you know, become the sort of extremist in these topics when it comes to this is one of the controversial ideas. I'm not sure like this is correct or not.
It's hard to say because it's hard. One of the things that I try to do is not like mind read others. You know, it's a fun pastime to be like, oh, this person believes that or this or whatever. But it's taken a lot for me to be like, okay, I actually don't know what they're thinking. And like, okay, here's an example. This is from a book that I read. I can't remember which one, but it's like, okay, I drive up with a dirty car. My car is dirty. It's covered in mud or whatever it is. Why is my car dirty? I guess just come up with reasons. Why would you think? You know,
like you were in a mud. You were in a bad roll or something where you splash some water or something. That's
but why didn't I clean it? I guess is the question. Some people would say it's like you didn't have time. You're too busy. You don't care what it looks like. Those are some things. But the real answer, which is that I'm like too anxious to go to the thing because I think I'm gonna like mess something up with my car, isn't what people would imagine. So like the point of this is that it's really hard to get into other people's heads, and a lot of times when you try to think of that, it could be wrong. But maybe you're right about this whole like people are like wanting a cause to follow, because I do believe that everyone is like the hero of their own story and stuff like that. I mean, I try to be in some ways, and maybe I'm deluded into thinking that. But there's a bigger topic like simmering there about like what causes to follow and what things to that. I tried to divorce myself from like.
But so I have this particular argument for this thing, because being an entrepreneur, when you are trying to build something, and when you want to have some impact on the society, right? You have to know about like what people are thinking, right? And then it comes to, for example, even if I want to build a product, I need to know if that product is required in the market. And the best way to know is the psychology of the consumer, right? Consumer behavior in a particular, if I put it in a particular way. Because I was reading about this CEO. So there's this company in India called Cred. And
Cred, C-R-E-D.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah. And it's a financial fintech sort of company. So his CEO was an undergrad in philosophy. And he was telling in one of his interview that one of the things which my degree helped me in this business was to know that what people are thinking. So I have this like particular dilemma. I won't say it's an argument, but this sort of dilemma, because you mentioned this point, like you don't get into what people are thinking, but then how will you think about something which is a real problem in the society and you solve it without even going into the people's mind?
So this is, I guess, well, maybe this is a fake reason why this is the case. Part of it might be my own personal failing, because I just don't have those skills. So therefore, I'm like, oh, it's not useful. That's like a bias that I might have.
That actually explains it, and that's fair.
But it also might be the difference between like a physics, like say a physics professor and a crime scene investigator. A physics professor can tell you all the mechanics behind, anyone can tell you all the mechanics behind like a bullet, how it works, how it functions, how it gets fired. But then a crime scene investigator is the person who tells you how it actually went down. The person who's able to say like this product is going to do like X, Y, and Z, is going to be, and it's going to work for this person, I assume is like a crime scene investigator. While like a physics, and this is what I'm closer to, is like I'm just now learning the levers that start to move people, like the means of persuasion. So things like liking and reciprocity and some of these other features. Like reciprocity is like, I wonder, do you know what that means when I say reciprocity?
Yeah, like how do you respond to anyone when he is responding you in a certain way?
Well, it's a little more specific than that. Have you ever been to Costco before?
Yeah, I've seen it. Like,
so Costco is like a big mega store, but one of their things they're very well known for is having free samples. And one of the reasons they give free samples is not because they want you to like and taste their food. Maybe that's some part of it, but a big part of it is reciprocity. And there's something very fine-grained in like human psychology from what all these books I've read. So if they're all BS, then whatever. But it's the one is that if somebody gives you something, you kind of have a de facto owing something to the other person. So if you give something away for free, you're creating some kind of bond between you and whoever that is. So if you take a sample from Costco, there's something way deep inside your brain that's telling you, I now owe Costco something for this. And the same way this is just one lever of persuasion. And there's a book by I think Robert Cialdini. He's more like an academic in the persuasion circles, but this is like the baseline physics of of how things work. And now I'm starting to see that, but that doesn't tell me, okay, this product is going to work for this or this product's going to work for that. I've actually kind of failed miserably at that a bunch of different times. I had various like web shops that never kind of went anywhere. But the things that started to work for me is essentially selling myself, which might be inherently limiting, but we'll kind of see where that goes. So I just focus on like skilling up myself, making myself as persuasive as possible.
And just one question. When you say making yourself as persuasive as possible, what do you exactly mean by that? Basically, you are providing some value to the society or value to the people. So and it's a free value, as you explained, the free concept, and then they are reciprocating in a certain way. For example, let's say buying your services in a business point of view. So is this what you mean by when you say like you're making yourself persuasive?
Not exactly, but using like knowing that reciprocity exists, and knowing that like all these other features, like speaking positively and using certain terms, like all the little nitty gritty details of being persuasive are things that I try to add to myself. So when I go and like when I'm just like emailing people or when I'm speaking at a conference, I try to follow certain rules that'll make me more engaging, and that'll allow me to all the skills I have, they could be worth nothing if I can't communicate with people. So I try to have those direct that added skill set there. I'm trying to remember some specific ones will come out as we go along. No,
actually I really like this idea of reciprocity, and maybe I have done that in my when I'm trying to communicate with people, but I am not exactly trying to spot on what exactly I did in this. And because I think this makes you likable, this makes you making that sort of network and connection with that person. And I think that's how I got these lights.
Well, if you offer your time, I mean, it could be something as very simple as just like genuinely listening to someone. Because most people, and I think we talked about this when we first met, is that most people are just talking themselves. They're not actually like actively listening and hearing what the other person's saying and then giving back to them or taking genuine interests. One of the best ways that I find whenever I'm at a like a business conference or something like that, I'm kind of terrified of small talk, but I usually when I'm there I can go through with it, and it's like just asking them more and more questions about themselves and just doing that tactically in an engaging way is just one of those little like persuasion tips that I've kind of learned, and that was from I think a Dale Carnegie thing where it's just
how
like
to win friends and influence people. It has a line like talk to people about themselves and they'll listen for hours,
and they'll think you're your best friend. And this might make me seem like a bit of a psychopath when it comes to this kind of thing, because I love breaking down and hacking things, and I love testing them out and then having it work. And it's happened a ton of times for me, and it helped me in my dating life to get my Emma, my girlfriend. That's what I did on our first date. I just asked tons of questions, and I think one of the cool things I said is, you've met the right person when they start hitting you with that back, when they start asking you the questions, and you're like, we found another wizard.
Actually, this is the wizard thing is like, I'm loving this thing, and I'm gonna call everyone wizard who I meet if I think these people are, because I just want to complete that point which came to my mind, because you talked about this thing like how to win friends and influence people. So there's this line, like it might sound like a structure, it might sound like a psychopathic thing, but if you go deep dive into this statement, you don't have to do this deliberately. You just have to be curious enough to know people, because I really want to know you, because I really want to know you, what you do in your day-to-day life. It's not like I'm trying hard to ask these questions to you, because if you become that curious person and if you ask the right questions, you are on that place of asking people questions and know about themselves. So I just wanted to make this point, because reading this line makes you sound like a psychopath.
Anything when you break it down is like I can't remember. There's another random story I had where it was like someone with like Asperger's was observing two people on a date, and it was like they knew each other. Everyone knew each other, but the one person, I don't know, this sounds like a fake story, but there was a way that they described like what Asperger's was. And they asked the guy afterwards, did the date go well? And he said, yeah. And he's like, why? And it felt right. The vibe was there, whatever it was. But then you ask the person with Asperger's and you're like, oh, she is, they liked each other because she moved her hand like this. They touched her head, like all these little minutia, and
you analyze all this. This is how psychoanalysis and psychology works. Basically, you go into the nitty gritty of these things and pick those psychological traits which are most common in all these kind of interactions, and this is how you come up with some kind of these kind of psychoanalysis which people do. I think I
but in a non like dangerous way, just doing it in like personal things. And the outcome is either I look like a fool, which is a personal motto of mine, is like if I can get over being like embarrassed, doesn't matter for me. I try to be as open as possible and like just say whatever, because if I could do that, it's a superpower. If I have no fear of embarrassment, which I'm still massaging out, then you're good. But so it's either I get embarrassed and the other person, it's awkward, whatever, or this person ends up with like a genuinely good experience and conversation and something maybe they haven't had in like weeks, because loneliness is an epidemic and all that.
It's not about what you say. It's about how you make them feel. It's all about experiences, because I have seen this. So I meet a lot of people, and whenever I talk to people, sometimes it's like I just talk shit, but because I'm laughing, I'm excited about that thing, and I'm passionate about that thing. People just love it because they don't want to hear, they want to experience, and you have to realize this. Just make them happy. Just make them have a good day with them. Like they should feel like I had a good day today, and this feeling makes that experience fruitful, and they make a good friend with you. So I think this is the same thing
But the difference between that and then like translating that into like selling a product, that's a leap I haven't made yet. I'm still, I don't know, say mastering the personal thing. But I don't know that you have to do one to get the other. Some people are just good at, ad copy, write pictures, stuff like that. I don't know. You
know Sabri Subi?
What is that again?
Sabri Subi.
Sabri Subi. No, I don't know what that is.
Sabri Subi is like one of the guy in the digital marketing space. And I think he writes thing about selling. Yeah, he's a good how to sell things. Tony Robbins and these people are like one of the best sellers. Like right now, Alex Hormozi is doing pretty well when it comes to how to sell yourself and how to sell your product, building businesses.
Before I started my current one, I was diving into that. I was like eating up all those podcasts and stuff like that. But I've kind of set it aside since they were like, once you break into stuff, it's like, okay, now run the business. And now I have to learn a bunch of new skills.
You have to stop consuming and start creating.
Yeah, exactly. And which is a threshold that a lot of people don't cross. But that's an important one to just like get a bunch of failures under your belt. That's kind of what today was, is I've never done one of these like podcast talk things before. So it's a chance to be terrible at something. I'm sorry you have to be the worst, to be experiencing me at my worst at this, But it's a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah. Because you mentioned that you don't have the fear of getting embarrassed, and that's why you are doing this, and that's why we are doing anything. Because when I was starting the podcast journey, I always used to feel that I'm not good enough. Will I be able to do this? Will I be able to talk to people? Will they come to my podcast if I invite someone? And these all self-doubts come in, but you just need to be comfortable about getting rejected. And if you're comfortable about getting rejected, in reality, you are not ever rejected. Because I have reached out to a lot of people for the podcast now, and I haven't listened to a single no yet. Everyone is saying yes till now, but I'm still ready to get rejected, but it's fine.
It's like when you don't fear death, you're the perfect soldier, something like that, In a small way, it's like that. But the same way goes for like dating, like when before I met my girlfriend, it was just like, you got to go, you got to just do like endless churn of these same kind of things, like all the different businesses. It's just, I am someone who is going to get this is just I guess that's the mentality that I have. And reframing these from like, oh, this is something that's going to be a loss into something that is a win. So there was a way I described this to one of my friends yesterday, because he's trying to get back into the dating world, and I don't know if I was persuasive, but I keep trying different reframes on him, because eventually one of them is going to stick and it's going to change his mind. Like I've had reframes that changed my mind like instantly when it was about like stopping smoking, I'm going to do smoking, and then I'm going to go back to the dating one, and it all applies.
I want to talk about dating in depth, so let's dive into that topic.
Well, first, the smoking thing was like I was like mentally like just thinking about it, like if I was if I see myself, it's my identity as someone who can decide and master myself, and that's it. Like I can rule my body. So and then I was like, well, if I can't stop smoking right here and now, that vision of myself, that self-image, who I am is not who I think I am. And as soon as that thought like entered my head, it was weird. It was like a switch went off, and I stopped cold turkey right then. And every time I go to think about, I still think cigarettes nice, whatever. I want it every once in a while, but I know that it would break my mentality to do that, because you can kind of make those connections. There's a whole bunch of things that need to happen in order to prime yourself, in order for those reframes to take effect. It's like you have to believe they work in order for it to work, which is a whole separate topic. But back on the dating thing for my friend, I was telling him that like, you want to I don't want to say you want to rinse through a bunch of people. That's a horrible way to put it. But you want to go through a bunch of dates so that you're going, by the time you meet the person that's the right one, you're at your best date skill level. Because that's the last time you'll need to. It'll be one, and then boom, you're good. You're the best you've ever been. And the rinsing through people is kind of like a negative way of thinking about it, but the way I talked to him, my friend is a good guy, and he would give people a good date experience. He's not going to like attack anyone or dismiss. But it would lead to a positive experience, which will then lead those people to have hope for whatever their next thing is. You need a bunch of like good good dates that go nowhere in order to build up to your really, really good one, because it gives you hope and energy of moving forward. You know, so as a whether you're a boy or a girl, you know, whatever, you can if you approach it with that mentality, it'll, I think, lead to like a more positive dating experience, because you know it's not like I failed because they're not my wife or whatever yet. You know, it's I've given someone, you know, a little boost, so now I'm owed a boost. So we're you know, you make your way up there. Again, that was a long rambling thing. I don't remember exactly how that ties into what we were talking about, but
but I have this question for you. A lot of questions.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Hit me with it.
So when it comes to dating, right? I have this question a lot of times because I was talking to a few people, and because you know, when you are doing any kind of thing for yourself, for example, building this podcast is also like a business to me, right? It's something which I'm working on, same as a product business which any entrepreneur would work on. This is my product, whatever we are recording right now. So I'm working same as any entrepreneur would work, right? Getting things right, improving myself, and getting the process automated and everything, right? And when you are in this process, when you are in this grind, right, you don't have that kind of mentality when it comes to, like, you know, dating, right? And I put myself in the back seat whenever it comes to dating, because I don't want to make someone else feel that they are wasting their time, because there will be time that I won't be able to give my 100%, and that's why, like, I stay in the back seat. But I don't know how I'm understanding it right now. Maybe I'm wrong, but I want you to, like, give some clarity on this, like the way I'm thinking, because you are in the same grind, right? I've seen you, I've talked to you, and I've realized that, you know, how do you handle these things? Either you find the right kind of person, right? And I think this is what you mentioned last time when you were talking about Emma. So what exactly you think about this, and what exactly happened to you when it comes to whatever I said?
This is an interesting topic, because I'm still working out how exactly this is working.
Dilemma, right?
No, it's a challenge, because you know, there's draws on your time, and I mean, you know, I wish there was multiple of me, you know, to give 100% to everything. But I used to be of the opinion that it was work to the abandon of all else, because I thought that's what it takes in order to make these businesses, you know, grow, happen, you know, especially when you're at zero.
Yeah.
You know, I have whatever
and I think this is what the toxic hustle culture usually tells you, right?
Yeah, it tells you just like, but it's I've been very cautious of extremist ideas. I mean, they're attractive to me, because I'm like, if I just give it everything, and I could give it everything, then it'll happen, you know. But and that might be fine. Well, it's not fine, actually, because when I was doing it on my own, I was kind of doing it to the destruction of my own mental health, you know. And well, before I go back to the relationship thing, it's like, what is it? For me, it was like, I'm gonna succeed. I just gotta, it's all negotiation now. What's the price that I have to pay in order to get there? And when you don't know anything about the market, you know, about succeeding in entrepreneurship, you just pay as much as you can to make it happen. And then once you find out, okay, it costs this much, let's see if I can do it cheaper. Let's see if I can do it cheaper in terms of time. You know?
Optimizing, you're just trying to optimize from each iterative step.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't know how much time it takes to make a podcast, but people could put, you know, 24 hours a day into it fully, you know, and maybe some, but I don't think it would take that much. You'd find out there's some kind of middle ground, you know. But I used to be like, I got to give everything, and everything else falls beside it. I had a very rigid priority list, and that led to a lot of conflict and tension in my relationship. And it was very unfair to Emma, because I was like, I was putting her in the backseat in ways that was just totally unfair. And one of the really strong things about one way you know you have the right partner is that if someone's in your corner all the time and giving you, maybe he's telling you things you don't want to hear, but that ultimately end up making you stronger in the end. And this is something that Emma's done for me, is that she pushed back really hard on something that I saw was a core trait of mine. I saw a core trait is that I'm Mr. Self-Sacrifice, get things done, decider, all this other kind of stuff. But that, it turned out, was making me weaker, you know, in a lot of ways. Yeah. And it was like degrading my mental capacity to handle things. I also have a problem with being very agreeable. So especially to like male mentor figures, like if they tell me to do something, I said, yes, sir, right away, you know, just based on how I was raised and, you know, the experiences I've had. But because Emma pushed back on me on this situation and we worked together, I went to like some therapy to deal with like stress management. You know, I used to think like, oh, you know, BS for going to like therapists and stuff like that. But I turned around on that based on some of the things that she had said. And it's given me a whole suite of tools that have made me way more effective. So like like last fall is kind of when this whole thing was peaking, when it was very very difficult, intense, and now after all the way out of this, I am like way more energized and mentally healthy. And I think that's a sign of a very strong relationship and that you're with the right person. Not that they just say, okay, you do whatever work you need to do. I'm just going to sit here quietly. They challenge you and push you. And I call her my personal R&D department, because she's coming up with ways to improve that I could never even think of. So, that's all. Well, that's kind of how this connects. It's not as clear cut as like some of the tactics for like running a company or being motivated or psychology, but that's like a lifelong journey to kind of figure out.
And you got to find that right partner, which you are telling, right?
Yeah, that someone that is, and that might just be the way that like things work for me. There might other people who need something on some kind of sliding scale, and it's negotiation and all that kind of stuff. So
because I think social media has really fucked the dating scenario, and it really fucked that because on social media, it's all about picking up girls. It's all about showing the part of yourself which is just looks cool in the society. And I'm like, so I have this habit of like showing a magic trick to people, and I'm a singer also. So I sometimes think like if someone is getting impressed because of this, I might not want that person. I want someone to, if someone is like getting impressed, I want someone who's impressed with my personality, who is impressed with my grind, whatever I'm doing, and who is impressed what I want to achieve, my ambition, not the things which are like superficial, which might go away sometime. And it's difficult to find that kind of person. And how do you find that kind of person?
Well, I had my girlfriend's friends ask similar questions, like, and my direct friends, they ask me similar questions. How do you meet people?
Females, right? The females ask this question.
Girls are asking this. Guys are asking this. Everybody's trying to find out how to find somebody right now, because there's a lot of things tied up with this that you're saying. Like it's well, first off, social media.
You are not on social media. Yeah, you're not on Instagram. I know.
Well, a reframe that changed my mind on this was that it's not entertainment. It's a vampire. It's like an attention vampire. So if I give it more time, it's extracting value in me in some way. And I'm like, I have a lot of other things I want to give time to. So I just did, and that reframe works for me for the most part. I still like sometimes spend too much time on Twitter if something tremendously interesting is happening.
So much about Trump.
It's just like the last few weeks has been hard to stay away because there's just so much news, But it'll go away, and I'll grab command of my life again. But well, I don't know. I met my girlfriend in grad school, so as I go to grad school, meet someone in real life if you can.
Yeah.
But even then, we connected on dating apps, afterwards, because that's how you have to know someone's intention, at least in some ways. I don't have a really good answer for like that, except the one, I guess, rule that I had is if you can keep it up, just keep pouring energy into the situation. If you put no energy into it, you're never going to find anybody. It's like you kind of spread out into a like nothing happening. But if you keep putting energy in, something is going to happen. I mean, be safe about everything that everyone's doing. But if you keep putting energy into it, likely. This is also my like philosophy and another life philosophy thing is that go where the energy is, and then you'll get lucky. Not in a relationship dating way, but you'll. There's another quote. It's like. You can't predict where lightning is going to strike, but you can stand on a big hill with a big metal pole in the middle of a storm. So if you go where the energy is, things are likely to happen. And that's really the only truth that I've found,
And people, I think, stress a lot about when it comes to dating. So this is what you have read 12 Rules of Life, right?
Yeah.
And Jordan Peterson talks a lot about dating, and not as such like particular dating, the psychology behind dating. And he says like if you want to date the right kind of person, you have to become the right kind of person. And this is an interesting idea because he says I was listening to this guy David Buss, and he's a evolutionary psychologist, and he was talking about how people choose their mating partners, and that the idea was very interesting, and it doesn't involve all these modern dating hacks and pickupery. It involves for a guy, it was like being a good dad qualities, and it's all inherent. And it includes that people might say a girl a gold digger if she's going after a rich guy or a accomplished guy, but it's not a gold digger thing. It's an evolutionary thing. Ladies are built like that, women are built like that, and they need to look for the partner who can take care of her and her child. And that's what makes you a good dad. And this is what David Buss
like a caveman provider hunter sort of
the alpha
mentality, right?
The alpha. So, and the meaning of alpha has changed a lot. The alpha is, nowadays, alpha is kind. He's accomplished. He is secure. And these are the qualities which women look for. And doing all sort of things, sounding cool and all these things.
It
like
almost
whatever
sounds like
happening.
that, like people call it like Sigma males before. I've heard that. I don't know if
Giga
that lines it. Whatever, you know. But I've never applied like those mentalities. I guess the things like, you know, getting yourself into a good spot is something I want to do regardless. And the fact that it's attractive maybe is its own
highlights
thing. So.
Like because you are not supposed to do it. You don't have to do it. It's all just analysis which they did after things happen.
Retrospective, you know.
Because when I see you as a secure guy who's working towards his goal, who wants to achieve something, who is disciplined and consistent. And these are the certain qualities which I just talked about. David was mentioning in his talk. And this
thank
is
you for the
people
compliments.
But
you know, I guess. But for anybody wanting to do, I guess you do those first, and then you don't try to like say, oh, I'm going to be an alpha, therefore this. It's just I'm going to do these things because my life is going to get better because of these things. You know,
you just have to make your life better. Be a person who's disciplined and consistent, who's trying to achieve his goal, who's not focused on these bullshits and everything. And I came on dating apps and everything, and I was talking to a few people, but I eventually realized that I don't really want to do this. Because I was so much focused on my podcast, I was getting guests. So right now also, whenever I'm at my home and I have a free space in my mind, I'm not able to like focus. I'm just thinking about my podcast. Like right now also, everything is going on like, okay, this podcast is going well, and I'm going to do this with this podcast. I'm going to do this with this podcast. I'm into the conversation, but I have these ideas. I'm not thinking about, okay, when do I have to go on a date? Do I have to text that girl? I'm not thinking about that thing because right now I'm just focused on the work and all the grind. So yeah, this is...
Well, I used to obsess like in the olden days of dating of like, should I double message? Should I not like send it this quick? Should I time things out? And it turns out I just wasn't busy enough, you know? I had to be doing more meaningful stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what I realized. Just be busy enough that you don't have to think about these petty things. Just work on yourself. And this is what Jordan Peterson was saying in his book and usually in his talks. And yeah, I really like that thing.
Man, there's a whole lobster thing I remember from one of his first chapters, which is be like a winning lobster, which is another thing. It's like I also like that show Ted Lasso a lot because it's very...
Ted Lasso, I've heard about this guy.
If you like... I've heard someone describe it as like aspirational masculinity. I don't know. You could attribute whatever you want to that.
Explain this. I really...
No, it's like a very positive show, and it shows like... it's like I don't know. I found myself resonating with it a lot, and there were certain things like, okay, so what were we just talking about? I just mentioned something to you. And
lobster story.
The lobster story. Okay, so what they say so the show Ted Lasso is about an American high school or college football coach goes to coach a soccer team or football team in the United Kingdom. So it's like a fish out of water story. It's really fun. The guy Jason Sudeikis, I think, is the actor, and it's all about like how to deal with like mental sports stuff, which applies directly to life. Because, in sports you get hit directly with like, losses all the time and stuff like that. In there, it's just be a goldfish, It's the same thing as the lobster thing from the Jordan Peterson book. It's just like, you gotta forget your failures and move on. Don't not learn from them, but just don't let them depress you and keep you down. Because if they do that, then according to the biology of the lobster thing, whether it's true or not, it's gonna shrink you down. It's gonna beat you up. It already hurt you.
He was talking about the brain thing, right? It shrinks the brain and everything.
It shrinks the brain. It also like messes with it just like releases certain chemicals, and that's kind of what like loss and not stress.
It's a true thing. It's a true thing.
Oh, okay, yeah. So
I have so after reading the book, I checked the research paper around that, and it's a true thing. The lobster story.
You're better than I was. I just saw it and I was like, okay, maybe it's true. I'll look into it. I don't know. I often don't, but I have some good friends that are sending me like raw papers to read all the time. I just I need to get a good like audiobook thing because I do a lot of that. But the Ted Lasso show has a bunch of other things that I've stolen from it about like team building and motivation, and because only now have since I've kind of moved on from that sphere. The same thing happens at work. I was like doing work because people told me to do work. That's what I was doing. Now I'm like leading a team of different people, so finding out how to keep them motivated when certain things are going on. It's a whole psychology that actually the Rutgers MBA program has helped me with. There's like an organizational behavior class that told me a lot of ways to give people like extrinsic motivation or intrinsic motivation. And it's useful. It's very useful, psychologically keeping everybody.
And I think I've met a lot of professors from MBA, and I don't know who are the like best of them. And I really want to do a podcast sometime with some of them.
The accounting professor I had was really good. I can't remember his name. Val might have been his name. Like Valentine? I don't know. But they're
New Brunswick campus.
Livingston.
Livingston. Oh, that's New Brunswick.
Yeah, I took him in Livingston. Yeah. And then I can't remember the guy who I just took. Whatever, there's plenty of good ones out there, and I always push for in person because I tend to be more engaged if I can.
So how's your daily routine going on right now? Because you have a fixed sort of discipline. So what's your daily routine looks like right now?
It's less than it has been. Like in the deep past, I guess, like, well, not deep past, but like in the COVID times, it would be like super rigid. Like I would get up, I would do my, I was still living with my parents. I lived with my parents until I was 28. And then my sister was going to move out and she's like 6 years younger than me.
How old are you right now?
I'm 32.
You don't look like 32, man. Trust me.
Well,
I thought you were like 28 or something, 27, 28.
You're very kind, Though I did hit like 220 pounds or 226 pounds earlier this year, so I'm trying to drive myself down. Yeah. That's why part of the first conversation we had was me getting back on my fasting, which is what my current thing is. I wake up. My girlfriend works in construction, environmental stuff, so she gets up super early. She's up at 5:30, so I'm up at 5:30, and then I go to my computer and I just work on that. And it's the best time in the morning because nobody's calling me. Nobody's complaining. I don't have any meetings, and I can get like 4 hours of like good nothing, no interruption work going on. And I just do that until noon, and then I usually have lunch around noon, whether I'm in the office or something like that. And then I go till the mid afternoon. I have a couple systems for fitness and stuff like that. One is that every day it's like the timing ports are wake up at 5:30, and I'm usually in bed or asleep by 10. I try not to eat after 8 p.m. because it's like you should have 2 hours of empty stomach before bed, and eating too close just makes it hard for me to sleep. I also try to exercise every day. I'm less hot on like push-pull, hypertrophy. I used to be more, but right now I've like fallen so much off the wagon that I need to just like do a hard correction, and just exercise all any day is going to help me out. Then I work in between. But one of the key things that enabled this was a magic spell I cast years ago, and this is that wizard thing. Okay, not to get too far. Okay, so I'm gonna step myself back through this. So wizards is a really nice compliment for people because it's visual and it's like powerful. So the best type of persuasion, not just like fear or whatever this is visual persuasion.
Oh, you did that when we started the podcast with me.
Which was what?
So like you you mentioned me as a wizard and.
No, yeah.
Right. So
it wasn't. Well, I could say it wasn't intentional, but anyway,
it was. Yeah.
But you say that and it's a visual thing, and then people can imagine it. If they can imagine it, you have them. You're already living in their head. Then stepping back into so the magic spell that I cast was this affirmations thing. So I might have told you this before, but the affirmations thing I latched onto in 2021. Okay. And I'd read it in a book, and I was like, it said, and my mom does a lot of affirmation things, but that had never motivated me enough to try and like actually write them down or do anything on a regular basis. But it might have been actually in 2020 I started them. But I read another book, and this book said if you can't even write the thing down that you want 15 times a day, then maybe you don't deserve it. And I was like, okay, fuck you, book. Okay, book. I'm going to prove you wrong. And since then, every single day, 15 times a day, I've typed out because
you showed me that.
Yeah, I've been doing it for years now. And the very first ones, they were in a rough form, but one of the core things was I will be in charge of my own schedule. Because if you're beholden to somebody else's schedule for doing all these kind of things, like doing your work, whatever this is, it's not going to match up with your energy levels. Because like in the morning, I'm really good at writing. In the afternoon, I'm better at math. And if you're working some kind of job that has you doing things on a certain schedule, it doesn't matter how you feel, you got to do the thing. So one of the key things is I need to unshackle myself from that. And I was able to get a job working for Rutgers as a researcher because of a whole litany of things that happened beforehand. And that was unlocked my energy potential. So now I can get up and start working at 5:30, or I could get up at noon if I wanted to, but I'd be shirking a lot of responsibilities for that. But I can kind of match my daily energy to my my the task that I want to take care of.
Right.
And that is incredibly powerful for like getting a lot of stuff done. Excuse me. But I don't know. That was one of the. I don't remember where this was going, but that was one of the key things.
Your routine. I was asking.
Oh,
about
yeah.
Routine, so.
The part of it was how did that affirmations play into that? One of the key affirmations was me writing that down over and over again, and it just so happened that like 6 months later, I got a job that completely unlocked my potential, for doing this kind of thing. Then for a while, I wrote down that I would get a girlfriend, and then lo and behold, that happened.
I saw that. Saw that too.
And then I also was writing that. Well, I had one down that's been consistent, which is rich, fit, and anxiety free, which are a little softer. They're not like specific,
Yeah.
But what I think that this does in terms of mechanics is that it brings something to the top of your mind every single morning. So it kind of reminds you what you're doing. And there's a maybe it's an apocryphal study, but they had two groups of people read a newspaper. They had people who self-identified as lucky and people who self-identified as unlucky. And there was a huge statistical difference. Well, they had them counting the number of pictures in the newspaper, and the people who were lucky were like statistically beyond like faster at doing it. And they're like, why is this the case? So on the second page was written, you can stop counting. There are 23 images, and the mentality here is that if you think you're lucky, then you're looking for opportunities to hit you with like goodness. You're kind of open to like shortcuts, kind of like that. The same thing is like if I'm talking about being rich like every single day, or I'm talking about being fit every single day, the thought that like the gym comes to me, it's like I'm already there. I've already been thinking about it. I might see an opportunity for some kind of business opportunity, or be motivated to send that one extra email or make that one extra phone call because it's at the top of my mind first thing I do every day. It's just another weird little trick.
So basically, you are just listening to yourself, and either you write it down and then listen, or either you listen it from someone else. This is how motivation thing works. Because I'm having this problem of being like productive right now. I'm trying my best, but in 2020, I was like very productive. I used to wake up in the morning and go to gym, come back 9:30. The market used to open, the stock market, and I used to trade till 3:30, and then listen to like 4 hours of podcast and read a book, and then prep my meal and everything, and just talk to my friend and then sleep. I was consistent like this for like a year, and then also something really like messed up, but it was okay. But after coming here, like it's not at that level. I'm trying my best still to come up, and I think it's do you think it's an age thing also? Because right now I'm just 24, and I'm around a lot of people. And people with different mentalities, with different mindsets, and you have to, because you are a social being at 24, and you have to be with those people, and those people are not like what you aspire to be. Not all the times, right? And when you are around these people, and you tend to not follow what you want to follow, right? So is this really a thing which happens?
I agree, and there's a thought that I've had before, is that you're the average of your friend group, or you trend towards the average. So I used to say things like, I want to be the fattest of all my friends, because that means I'm going to be trending towards the middle, because if everybody else is active and stuff like that, I'm likely going to end up in that area. I've had like the light idea to try and engineer friend groups so that like they're providing me the biggest benefit, but it's kind of an impossible task, and you might also start to like having like a group of people who do a bunch of different things tends to be very good for the entropy thing in my life. Because if you got a lot of high energy friends who are doing a lot of high energy things, it's likely to have a lot of different collisions, regardless of what the kind of things they want to do, unless it's like really destructive. You could imagine 100 million destructive things different people do that you don't want to get involved in. But that's generally the trend that I do. If I like them and they're pleasant to be around and they're high energy, then I'm all in on that. Yeah. And I think I've kind of, I'm not going to say close ranks. It's just like life has gotten so busy that I've kind of just had to tell people I can't spend as much time with that now. I'm down to just like maybe, four people, that I talk to on a regular basis. And eventually I'll get to the point where I can expand again. Life goes through this kind of like breathing thing where you have a reason and a season. They come into your life for not one purpose, but like, and then they go on, and then you know about them for life. But I don't know. My thoughts about friendship are still evolving, as far as it goes.
Because when you say this, you're right. Like, you need to be around people who have different kind of energies, and like they want to do something. Different kind of people. You can't surround yourself all the nerds, and then you'll be average of those people. Like, you need one person who is that kind of person, and one person. So, but the thing is, for example, let's say I want to wake up at 4:30 in the morning, right?
Yeah.
But my friend is a party freak. He's a ambitious guy. He's a motivated guy, but he's a party freak, and he's partying at night. But because he's my friend, sometimes I have to go with him, right?
Okay, yeah.
And then how do you manage that? Because if my friend used to wake up at 4:30, then it would be easy for me to,
Yeah. Well, this is unrelated, but it's like the sign of a successful person isn't that they never, that they don't ever break their routine, but it's how quick they get back on it. So what I try to do is, like, if I got to stay up, like I always want to go to bed at 10, but there's like plenty of events that I go to that are like concerts to 1 or whatever it is. And then it just means like, okay, tomorrow morning, I'm going to do my best to get up at 5:30, but I'm going to try to go back to the mean, as it were. But, life is adapting to this constant changes. And I like that as a mentality. Like it makes you, the more adaptable you are is the better suited you are to the environment. Not that you're like rigidly locked into your robotic thing,
right.
But
you're right. On
the other thing that I try to do to keep on that is another mantra that I have that I've stolen, which is you manage what you measure. So I measure what time I wake up every day. I have a log going back 3 years of every time that I've woken up, and that way I can point to it and be like, oh, this is how I was, this is how good I am, or I'm starting to slip, and you can start to see different changes there. I think all I do is when I wake up, whether I exercised or not, whether at one point it was whether I flossed or not, but that's fine now, and then. Whether I exercise, whether I ate properly, and then I have like a mood tracker that I do, and I just have like good, bad, low, high, and then maybe a reason. But that's enough, and I just do that every morning, to kind of keep track of things.
No, I think that now I'm getting motivated from you to do all this stuff, and I really want to get back on the track, because that feeling of getting back on track and having a proper routine is surreal. I'm telling you, because when I was in that grind in 2020, I was 96 kg, which is, I don't know how much in pounds.
I don't know. I should know the conversions, but I'm stubbornly American who only knows pounds.
let me do it.
Yeah, we can compare weights.
That's why I keep my laptop here.
But you but this
211 pounds.
211. Yeah.
So I was 211 pounds in July 2020.
I wish I was 211.
And then I came to 167 pounds.
Yeah, okay, you're telling me this. This is partly why I'm motivated to do when you were saying that. You showed me some pictures and I was like...
Right, yeah, I showed you that picture. So the period at that time, I wasn't even eating a single bite of sugar.
Oh, yeah?
I was that disciplined. Mm-hmm. I was not having anything junk. I was just focusing on my meal prep, and I was just having, single meal every day. Single meal. So
if there's something, I still haven't really thought like too deeply about this, but it's like that montage section of life that a lot of people got, where it's just like a training and eating montage to just like level up, skill up, all this kind of stuff. 2020 was a great excuse for a lot of people to kind of do that. And that's something that I've observed, that there was like two splits of people, during 2020 where people just became more of themselves, So there were a lot of people who they use it as a chance to gain a bunch of skills, get in shape, and like lose 10 pounds. And then there were some people who chose to I guess overindulge, and then they either gained 10 pounds or whatever they ended up in some kind of unhealthier situation, But I mean that made me feel better, that analysis. I don't know what that does for anybody else.
This is actually true, and me and my mom was discussing this thing. Like there were two dissection basically which happens. There were people who became something else, and there were people who became something else. So I have seen that.
I personally used it to learn how to do like full stack development. And I also learned there's something called pinyin, which is Chinese in like phonetic, because all the people I work with have Chinese names like Zhe or Zhepeng or stuff like that, and I was always calling them Zipeng and insulting things. But I learned that, and also some like Chinese characters. So that rolls with me till today.
Yeah.
I can't believe it was only 4 years ago that was going on.
I think during that time I learned how to solve a Rubik's Cube in 40 seconds, and I learned a lot about fitness. I learned boxing. I learned flute. Yeah.
Okay.
And flute, and a lot of things, because I learned how to learn. And And it's a very good idea, which I talk a lot. I made a reel on my Instagram which got removed because of some copyright issues, and I was telling about like how I have learned these things, how I became like 211 to 167 pounds, and at the end of that reel, I said that during this whole time, the only thing which I learned was how to learn. And it's very important, because if you get into the process and you know how to learn things, you are just not afraid of doing anything, because you know that even if I'm not good at it, it'll just take me some time to become good at it. And this is what I realized, because I was from a completely accounting background before coming to this course, and this is a quantitative finance. It involves programming, it involves maths, and I learned all these things in 2020 during that whole time.
It doesn't scare you anymore, you know?
Yeah, I didn't, because now I know I can learn anything. Now I'm not afraid of. I learned about neuroscience. I was listening to a lot of podcasts. Now I can talk to someone who has experience in neuroscience, in psychology, philosophy. Read a lot of Western philosophy, Western philosophers like Stoics and Friedrich Nietzsche, Albert Camus, and everything. And I was like, if you know how to learn, it's easy.
Yeah, it's the toolbox or blueprints or whatever you need to a lot of success. Because when starting my company, I've had to learn all kinds of crazy things from like federal financial accounting requirements and so much about insurance. But it's all just I just throw it into the same machine in my head, where it's just like, okay, do this, learn that, read this one thing, just get it done. You know, and I don't know if you've ever read a book called or seen the movie Dune. Dune. So in the book, like they say that Paul Atreides, the guy who was like the main character, the first thing he ever learned was how to learn. Was a quote from that book. You know. So
really?
Yeah. There's so many weird quotes from like the books of Game of Thrones. Yeah. So you know, remember? Have you watched Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
So you know Samuel Tarly, the fat guy? He like self-admittedly says he's a coward. And there's a whole section on there where it's like, wow, it's actually really brave that he can call himself a coward, and it's like self-aware, and that makes him very strong. So it's a whole weird thing sneaking in these other books, and I'm like, okay, so he knows, some bits about all this, But I guess you become a great writer by knowing about people.
No, I think I completely get it, because from you also, when I see you, when I talk to you, I realize that you have that kind of thing, that you know how to. And I think being an entrepreneur, every entrepreneur knows how to learn, right? Because they have to learn multiple skills. They are king of something, but they are jack of all trades most of the time, because they have to learn, because they have to manage a team of completely different kind of people, and they have to know about digital marketing, they have to know about branding, they have to know about advertising, they have to know about the tech if they're using any. So I think, this
I
is
like a different name than entrepreneur, because not like so I don't know if this is something you've seen, but with the amount of like people that call themselves entrepreneurs, I feel like that title has become devalued. I wish there was another one that was like, I'm not, because I don't know if people like take you less seriously because it's not you, but just like people in general. I know I've received some like raised eyebrows and scorn if I ever introduce myself with that. That's why I'm like, I'm a researcher, or I'm a business owner. That's
business
like,
owner sounds okay.
But business owner could be like an ice cream truck.
I don't call myself an entrepreneur, because I'm just trying to build something.
Yeah, let people call. What was that? If you have to call yourself the king, you aren't one, or something. That's another thing.
Yeah.
Whatever. But labels do have a lot of power. Especially when you call yourself something, which is one of those strange different things that I've done before, where it's like I'm not someone who. I don't go to the gym. I mean I go to the gym, but I'm that's not what I see myself as. I see myself as a fit person, and a fit person goes to the gym.
Yeah.
So identity is stronger than action. So what you call yourself is like is that, and I'm still working on that from like a business perspective.
And I think Gary Vee, right?
Yeah.
Gary Vee has said, right? Gary Vee has talked about a lot on action faking. So
action what?
Action faking.
Faking. Okay.
Faking. So you just talk about it, and you just give that sort of inherent instant gratification, or you call it validation, and you just tell yourself, you know what, that this is what I'm going to do, this is what I want to do, and you just tell yourself, and you get that validation, you get that gratification instantly, and now you don't work on it. So basically, you are just faking your actions, and you're not working towards it. So I think this is sort of a similar idea, which I just understood from this thing.
It's like, why don't I just copy paste 15 times a day instead of typing it out? That shortcut, I still get the thing done, but it's part of the journey, process, the process as well.
One thing which I really liked about, and I really wanted to know about this, you mentioned that you go to a lot of events, right?
Yeah. Well, what do you mean events? Like
events like you were in the NJ Transit event, which where we met, right?
Yeah.
And the one thing which I observed, firstly, I want to know like what you learn from all these events and like your networking mantra again. But the one thing which I saw you doing there, like the people were like so big people. Like the CEO of NJ Transit and the FIFA lady, who manages FIFA. You were around all these people. There was this guy who was from Hong Kong and he used to manage all the. There's an Indian guy, some Jan or something. I reached out to him. You know what? I connected with him on LinkedIn. And I sent him a text like, you were like one of the speaker who I really liked, and he was like, thank you so much for the compliment. I was like, this just builds a network. Like if he's coming back to New York sometime, I can just hit him up again and just.
He trains at Rutgers on a regular basis with the UTIP program. So he like trains like NJ Transit folks about that kind of thing. But no, so the question is about like.
So the question is,
with these people?
Feeling comfortable with these people, and I saw you sort of, they made a breakout rooms, and I saw you leading one of the breakout group, and you were just, I was like, this guy is like not even like, he was just a part of the program, and he was not the part of the speakers, and still he went to the group and he owned up the thing and he was leading at it. Like you were taking opinions from all these big people. So firstly, how do you do this, and what comes to your mind when you are doing this? Like what makes you take the lead?
So, part of it might just be that I awkward silences, like I can't handle like when there's a break in stuff. So I that might be playing into it a little bit. That's like the cheap sort of one answer of it. But like in that particular situation, I was told by a supervisor that we want the best like out of it. We need people like talking during this thing. So it was like I had a personal stake in it because I want to look good to my boss, and so there's a little bit of motivation there. So it's like sprinkle 5%. It's awkward. 5%. It's like this is what made me do this. Like 5% was like my boss telling me to do things.
It takes a lot of guts still.
Well, it's part of it's my whole like don't be embarrassed things. I trust myself not to like say something horrible, that's going to get me in trouble there. But I try to push things like I've done this long enough that I can pretty much talk to anyone. And the only reason I got here is because I've done this and I've gone through enough cycles and iterations where I've said dumb things and I've been called out for it and I didn't die and nothing really bad happened to me and I got a job and I have a house and not a house, but I have an apartment and like nothing has killed me yet. So I've kind of the fear of death has kind of been assuaged from this whole situation.
Yeah.
That's and I'll give a quick story on that. But the other side of things is that I've had the opportunity to like hire people and have them work for me and both like graduate, undergraduate, and I know like full. Well, I guess when I worked at my old job, some full time like folks as well. And as a leader, and this is me putting myself in the shoes of like that guy from Hong Kong or the head of NJ Transit. They are dying for people who are. Who show these qualities, who show initiative, who show like professionalism, who show guts. Like that's the kind of stuff that they'll just pluck you out of a crowd and say, I want this person working for me because they have these skills and they're not afraid. It's like you can dominate an interview if you just have these like Riz skills, just to talk about this. Or if you have no fear and you apply it correctly, So that's why I'm like, if it's not that I'm afraid I'm going to say something that this guy doesn't want to hear. I'm like, he wants to hear people talking. Or he or she or whoever is the head of this kind of thing, they want people that are good, doing things.
Engaged. They can like,
engaged. Yeah. There's also the another idea is that like the person, who is the leader in the room, is just the person with like the best ideas. So you could be like the lowest person there. If you say the best idea, then you become like a de facto leader of that conversation. That's I don't know if that applies everywhere. Maybe not in every culture. Maybe there's maybe some levels of deference, to one, to someone if they have seniority in terms of expertise. I've seen that in different organizations. But my philosophy, and this is how I run my teams, and maybe this is because entrepreneur, transformational organization, you gotta like I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're just an intern. If you have something that's a good idea, say it. And then then it might become our whole thing. But the the story of how I got to this no embarrassing thing, it comes to, remember that thing where it's like 10,000 hours? You know what that book is? There's a book, it might be something
Atomic
called
Habits? Atomic Habits.
It's not. I mean, Atomic Habits says similar stuff.
Yeah.
But there was a book that had to do with 10,000 hours. Said to become an expert in anything, you got to get 10,000 hours into it. He said, like Bill Gates, he at a very young age, he got like a crazy exposure.
I've heard about this book.
So I've seen an adaptation of that. You don't need 10,000 hours. You need like 10,000 cycles or 10,000 iterations. You don't hours is just a random number somebody pulls. So what I was able to do is that in my undergraduate. I went to New Jersey Institute of Technology, and I went there, for scholarship reasons. I essentially said I don't care what school I go to as long as they cover my costs, because I was like I was told you're paying for it yourself. So I was like, okay, let's figure that out. So when I went there I got in on an honors college scholarship where you have to do like higher level classes. In order to fulfill like your accelerated obligations or whatever it is. And I saw that there was this special program that they were just starting that year, and they're like, if you join this, it's experimental, but it'll cover all your things. And I'm like, okay, I figured these people, they don't really know how to run this thing. I'm probably gonna have an easy time of it. Let's do that. Let's go and try this program. And in that program, they had us essentially come up with a product and then pitch it to a bunch of like CEOs that they brought in for 4 years. So for 4 years, about like 2 to 3 times a semester, I would have to stand up in a suit in front of all these people, freshmen in college, essentially saying like, "Here's this thing that we invented," and they would tear us down. They tell us it's dumb. They tell us like that my speaking style was terrible, and I survived all that. And going through that over the course of 4 years of my undergrad made me come out of there being like, I could talk to anybody. I could present in front of any group of people. I presented to the highest, as it were, and it was fine. So if anybody out there is able to like get those cycles in of talking in front of people, then it's going to make them have a superpower that is going to be critical in situations like the one you were describing.
And getting yourself like out of that comfort zone, because people tend to put themselves in that comfort zone and they don't want to risk. And I don't know what they are risking. It's nothing. You're not going to die. And
most people forget about it right afterwards. They go to lunch, unless
this is
you like
the same
vomit or something.
iterative process which I have done, because people don't believe me when I tell them that, bro, I was very introverted guy and I wasn't able to talk to a lot of people. I used to stand behind my friend in my undergrad college, and he used to talk to a lot of people, and I was always in the behind. And right now he tells me, bro, like you're talking to a lot of people, how do you do it? And I was always standing behind him, and I was like, okay, these people are like superior to me. I don't think I deserve a conversation with them. And this is how I changed my mentality. Like, I'll just go to it, even if it's messed up, it's okay. I'll just learn from it. I'll just come back and, not overthink, self-reflect. Because there's a very thin difference between self-reflection and overthinking. You have to just, sit back and just see yourself from a third person point of view. And if you see yourself from this first person point of view, overthink. And if you see yourself from the third person point of view, you tend to self-reflect. Because you are seeing that situation happening and you just realize, okay, this is what I did wrong. Let's not do it the next time. And this is how I did it.
It's like if your own very good friend giving you straight advice. That's like a way to see it.
Yeah. And people don't know this difference when it comes to overthinking and self-reflection. And I think it helped me a lot. And one more thing which I wanted to mention is about like volunteering, because you said like you volunteered to that program and you pushed yourself. And this is what I think a lot of people should do, because so I got these lights from that person, right? And he works in the studio. And right now I'm working with the college for like 20 hours. And this is what I wanted to do. He taught me how to set up all these lights, and he was really good. We were talking about the people we see on YouTube, the filmmakers and everything. And I was like, this guy is fucking cool. And you know what I did? I just texted him on Instagram, like, hey, Carlos, so the thing is, I don't have enough hours, and I can't work legally for more than 20 hours, and I already am working for 20 hours. But I really want to work you. He works in New Brunswick most of the time, but I asked him like, I will work for you for free. And just tell me whenever there is any event. I want to assist you. I want to learn from you. And my course is like, it's one of the toughest courses, but still I was like, you know what, I'll manage. Just tell me whenever you are free, and I want to assist you in any sort of event which is happening in New Brunswick and Newark. And that's kind of sort of, volunteering, and because you're pushing yourself and learning one thing extra from whatever you're experiencing.
That's my same exact experience, and that's how I got this job that I have, and how this business actually got started. It's that It's sort of like volunteering. I was at my my old job, which pays for me to go to grad school. So they gave me like free tuition. It was related to my work, so I did that. And then I ended up linking up with my advisor, now business partner, Dr. Lou, and he was like. I went above and beyond and was just volunteering. Like, how can I get involved in this research? How can I write these papers? I happen to have a good. My mom was she's an author, so she kind of trained me to be a good English writer. She would essentially review the first page, and if there's any errors on it, she would mark it up, send me back to my room. I couldn't come back to her for an hour, and in that hour, I couldn't go play video games or do anything else fun. So I had a really big motivation to make sure that was good. But that skill when I was young, like I don't know, 12, 13, whatever, that has translated to being a good writer now, which is a value to academics. Anyway, so me volunteering with Dr. Lou led to us winning getting a paper published, then led us to getting a research grant, which was funding my position, which then led to a patent, which now led to this company that we've all started. So it was all because of that little nugget you just put in there, a little seed you plant with volunteering with someone. I probably volunteered like plenty of other people that just turned into nothing. But the same way with dating, you just need you only need one win, so you just got to keep doing it, and then it'll turn out for the best.
No, actually it's true. I heard this quote that we think of what people will say when we fail, but imagine what they will think when you aren't even trying. And this actually is true because, according to me, it's like not doing anything should be a regret rather than like failing at it. And people regret about the failure which they are getting. But I think the main regret should be if you're not even trying that thing. And this is like, I think we should focus on trying more often rather than, just thinking of that thing. You go, if I try, I'll fail. You don't know.
No, that I'm still working on that when it comes to like networking at these big events. Because I tend to, I don't want to just like cold walk up to random people and try to do things. I usually like people to come to me. So I work on those different kind of things. So there's lots and lots of ways to grow. And there are like points here that I still need to like level up on. But I don't know. All this is strong things that I like that are core to my personality. And I hope that other people, if it resonates with them, that they're able to take some lessons from this,
Right. No. I think I really need to come into that zone of productivity, and I think I'm getting that vibe from you, and I'll start doing this. I'm moving out and I'm getting a new place.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I think that place is pretty big, and
no, that'll be excellent. You know,
do you watch anime or something?
Do I? Not in a long time. Maybe when I was younger, I used to watch like things like that. I watch like what I do watch is just like random television shows, like House of Dragon or this or that.
Right.
Why? Why are you asking?
No, it's like personally, I have learned a lot from animes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've learned a lot. Like, like sometimes this happens that it used to happen, and I think anime is like one of the things which changed all this thing. Like, I used to feel that I'm not something, I'm not somebody. And I watched Naruto. I don't know if you,
I've seen that. When I was younger, I watched it, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I was like, dude, and after you watch that art piece, I would say, it's an art piece and piece of art, actually. And you just realize that, no, you are something. It's just, you just have to pass through that self-doubt and of not being self-aware. But you are already somebody, and you are just not realizing this. And this is what Naruto does. Like, he keeps on leveling up, but people think like, and he doesn't think that he's nobody, but people often think, and as a viewer, like, we want that recognition for our main character, right? And he gets it eventually, but he does not, he never did. Like, he was already worthy. But we were just waiting for that,
So was that like a personal challenge of yours, like the worthiness feeling that you've had?
That's how all the insecurities kicks in, right? Because you don't think you are worthy. You don't think that you should have a better conversation with people. You don't think you should have friends, because you think that you have these insecurities. You have these. You don't have some sort of thing, and I don't think people will like me if I don't do this. If I don't drink, people won't like me.
The negative cycle.
Negative cycle, exactly. Yeah. And you tend to just get into that loophole, and you try to chase that relevance.
How have you broken out of that then? I guess seeing examples like in television and stuff like that. But this isn't one thing that I struggled with. But
getting embarrassed often.
Oh yeah, okay. that translates to you feeling like I guess it gets rid of that depression. That's
it's I think I was blessed that I didn't get into that shithole of depression. So a lot of people don't believe but I never had like friends. The number of friends I have right now in US, I just had 1% of it since my whole 24 years of life. And people don't believe this. And I never had friends. I was never able to talk to a lot of people, make friends. And I was like, no, I need to come out of it. And there was one of my friend who helped me with this. And he used to tell me, you know what, Lakshay, you're already worthy. You don't have to prove something to these people. And when you tend to prove something to these people, they see through it. And they don't want to make you a friend because you are insecure about yourself.
It's obvious to see.
It's obvious, yeah. He's trying so hard. Why is he trying so hard?
No, I've seen this before, and this rings true. And I guess a lot of this was I was probably in a similar situation, when I was growing up and stuff like this. But it's hard to see that as a third person. I've tried to have a framework to look at my life, and I don't know if you've ever done something like this, but I try to say okay, Asim 1.0, Asim 2.0, Asim 3.0. I try to put dates on it, where it was I was Asim alpha test until I was in high school, and then I got version 1, and now I'm trying to keep track of all these new level ups and upgrades. When was your latest version of Lakshay? Would you have to say
2020?
2020 was the next one.
That was the best version. The people who were in my undergrad, they see me right now, they can't imagine me like this right now. Everything, I have changed everything about myself. The looks, the way I talk, the way I behave, the way I manage relationships. Everything is changed. And
But do you think who you are now is an upgrade still, even from that 2021?
It's a slight upgrade. The growth is pretty stagnant. It's still a growth, but that was exponential growth. That
Understood.
whole 1 year. But right now it's on a tangent. But I think there will be some time. So this is how I treat life. When anyone wants to become successful, I treat this as a graph, and you are always below the graph. But there's a time comes in when you have to put on those 10 times extra effort. And when you put those extra effort, you just breach this graph. Now you'll be always above this graph. You'll fall back, but you'll be always above this graph. This time can comes in maybe you are in your high school, maybe you are in your undergrad, maybe you are in your masters, maybe you are 28 or 30-year-old guy starting something new or working at a company. This time will come someday, and you have to just push yourself and breach that graph. Then you'll be able to become successful.
One of the things I've seen about this is that your self-awareness never goes down. There's never a negative for that. I don't know anybody who's kind of gone back into the shell, after they've seen the other side. It's almost universal with every wizard that I've met, or anyone who's done that conversion, something like that.
This wizard idea is very interesting. And
the wizard thing, I stole it from a book that wasn't actually about this. It was about it was a book about genetic engineering of plants, where there were two people who were trying to solve the not enough food crisis that was happening in I think the 70s or 60s or 50s. I don't remember exactly, but there were these people who were wizards who were trying to it was maybe one gentleman who was genetically engineering wheat so that it could be bountiful but not be short and whatever it is. And then there was this other group of people called the prophets who were trying to essentially, they're people would call them anti-humanists now, saying we need to keep society under 500 million or something like that, and that kind of. So the book talked about those two camps that sort of came into fruition around this time. But I've taken the wizard thing, I've repurposed it for something completely different, and I still like it as a mentality.
This is what a creative mind does. So
steal things, yeah. No, that's the. I don't know if you want to get into skill stacking and how ideas can have sex in your mind and have babies, and that's the one of the things that I try to do. Why did I learn to code when I know civil engineering and I know all this other kind of stuff? It's because then that two things can mix together, and then boom, you have some kind of product or some kind of whatever. And that's what happened with this. The whole business I had here is that civil engineering as an industry is a little bit on the slower side of it changes less because it's if a civil engineer messes up thousands of people die versus other types of engineering where it's the whatever. But having like some IT skill and bringing that together with the civil engineering, you can make a really big impact in a relatively easy way.
Yeah.
So finding those like those opportunities is we were asking before. I think there was a question, and I meant to interject. It was like, how do you like if you want to start these business, you have all this motivation. What do you do if you can't just cold start a business out of nothing with no skills? If you don't know what to do, do something, and that's where the volunteering comes in, where you just try to like breach out from whatever your job is doing to try and add a bunch of skills and stuff. Because you work anywhere, you're going to find out 101 million problems that they have that if you're a useful and capable person, you can solve. And if it's a big enough problem and you're useful and capable enough, then you can start a business around it and get rich and all that other kind of good stuff. But finding those problems and hearing it right from there, or being the person that's experiencing the problem, is the only way to really get to know it and have that edge, at least that I've found.
You have to tap into like different things to figure out what you exactly want to do. It's like being in an ocean and trying to dabble to come on the top. And while dabbling, you just learn how to swim. And this is the idea which I follow too, that, just explore, tap into different things. I was into music. I used to write music. I still write music. And then I changed like different things. I was creating a different kind of content last year. But I was like, you know what? Because I like to talk to people and I have this curiosity of like knowing everything. And you know what? Let's do a podcast. I don't know if I'm going to find any guest or not, but I'll try my best. But then I met someone, then I met you, then I met a few professors. And
well, this is the skill thing. It's like bringing all these things together. You got enough technical skill, you got that advertising skill, you got all this other kind of stuff. It can start to boil up and become, something crazy.
And this is when we were talking about like what exactly I'm doing to build this podcast. It's mostly like, I set up everything. I record it. I am the cameraman. I am the lighting guy. I'm the co-host, and I'm the editor. Sometimes like I have a editor, but sometimes he's busy, so I have to edit all of my videos.
You got to find out how to bring the flute into this now somehow. Some of the other skills. Maybe
you haven't seen my magic trick yet, right? Yeah.
No. Maybe I'll fall in love. There'll be the trouble, right?
So. I did this magic trick with a girl from your batch, and so we were on a cruise.
Okay.
And
a cruise, like a big a cruise ship, or like a small like.
So that in August, September with MBAs, MQF and MBAs have this cruise.
Yeah. I've seen the advertisements for it. Yeah.
So we were on that cruise, and I was just building up my social skill. I was in the US for the first time, and I wasn't afraid of getting embarrassed.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was out there. I was so afraid of like approaching people. But you know what? I just gathered up. Lakshay, you can do it. Lakshay, you can do it. Lakshay, you can do it. 3, 2, 1. And I was like, hi, my name is Lakshay, and I am a magician, and I really want to show you this magic trick.
Okay. Yeah.
I just told her that.
Yeah.
And she was, no one says no. I have realized that
if you approach with a smile and if you're an attractive person, that generally helps a little bit, So then they're like, oh yeah, sure,
Yeah, sure. And I was like, yeah, sure. So I showed them a first magic trick and she loved it. Like, you know what? I have something amazing. So I bring up my cards. I do this trick where I let her select a card, make her sign that card, and I fold that card and she put that card in her mouth.
Her mouth?
Her mouth, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then I take another card, I sign my name, and I fold that card and put that card in my mouth. And then so we are both biting the cards. I hold her hands, and just the magic is happening. And when I snap, the cards, her signed cards is in my mouth, and my signed card it's in her mouth.
Wow. Okay. I don't know how it's done. I like seeing keeping it as magic.
Yeah.
But I could see. I mean, yeah. If you want someone to fall in love with you, that's a big way. You put something in your mouth.
I don't want to use all these things. These are just gimmicks
and fun icebreakers. Whatever. It's a way to get remembered. If you're trying to do stuff.
So this actually helps me to make connections.
I hope you don't do it a business thing,
Actually, I've showed this magic trick to professors, to my interviewers.
Oh, okay.
And they were like, you have written magic trick in your profile.
Okay, yeah.
Let me show you. So I just snapped. So I keep the cards like this and like snap, and the card changes.
Okay.
So I did that on the interview, and he liked it. So I think it helps me to build that social muscle.
Yeah, no, big time. Well, there's so many good things that are kind of tied into that. Yeah. And like not being afraid to be yourself, which is something that I've been told is like an attractive quality. So I went to a conference recently and they had the dreaded thing where they're like, okay, I was in a small room, they like 10 people. And then they were like, okay, we're going to go around, everyone's going to talk about their project, and you got to say one thing about yourself. And that mortified a number of people. You could see it on their faces and they had trouble like getting the words out, and then as a small example, one person's like, I like to hike. They're from Los Angeles. And I was like, and then yelling out into the room, these 10 people, I was like, tell me a good hike from where you're from. Oh. And it just like, it was weird. It broke the ice. And then it was all cool because he was like, oh, this is the one that I like to go to. And then I had to talk to the guy afterwards. And then when it came my turn to say what it was, I said that I was a dungeon master from Dungeons and Dragons, which is like the weirdest nerd thing that exists out there. Maybe less so today than it used to be. But then when I told that story to other people, they're like, I can't believe you would be that, like, you'd say that about yourself or be that open. And I'm like, I don't know, what does it hurt? And it ended up leading to like conversations afterwards, and I think everybody after me was saying like weirder and funnier things that just led to everyone being more together. And that's like the same thing. The person in the room with the best ideas, or if that counts as an idea of just being like so open about it, it tends to lead because it's just like leader quality,
I just have one question. Like, how do you articulate so well? Like it's because you read a lot, or it's because you write a lot, or because you talk to people a lot. So what is exactly?
It's just the same thing as that public speaking thing. It's 10,000 cycles. I was stuttering and awful, and I still talk too quickly. But like that was a thing that you just kind of get over time. I still have ums and ers, and there's lots of ways to improve, but there are some little tricks you can do. And one of the things maybe is that I listen to like a lot of audiobooks, especially British ones. And sometimes I articulate my T's in a very strange way for people. But when you're about to give a presentation, I didn't do this when I came here. You hum happy birthday to yourself. So if you just go, what that does to your nasal passages and your voice box and whatever it is, it does something to like set it at the perfect tone. And even if that's a lie, even if that doesn't mean anything, if you believe it is, then you're going to speak better, or speak more properly when you do your thing.
That's a really cool thing to do. I'll try this. Like after whenever I'm starting a new podcast, recording a podcast, I'll do this thing.
Happy birthday. It maybe just knocks the phlegm off or something. But I actually, in one of the presentations I had, I was in Denver, a big group of people I was supposed to give a presentation to. It was the International Level Crossing Awareness. It was nothing very specific for my work. But it was very dry. Everyone's like government officials. And I told them this. I'm like, I always like to start one of my presentations with some kind of joke to like, the best way to start a presentation is you get some kind of feedback or get the audience to do something. If they do something, they're yours because you physically have their attention, making them do whatever. The second thing is you can make people laugh, a little lighter on that side of things. But I told them that happy birthday thing. I'm like, hey, there's something that I was told, will make a good speakers by humming happy birthday. They hum happy birthday at everybody. And I'm like, okay, now I think we're ready for the presentation. Just that little bit, and people like piss themselves with laughter because usually things are so dry that any amount of humor in those situations, is totally, perfect.
Yeah. And I think this is what I've learned after coming to US, that you need to be like, chill out, like just be open, because I've seen a lot of my Indian friends and they're very rigid, like they're very much seems like they're in a cage.
And stiff.
Stiff actually. They're very stiff, and the way they behave in front of me, they're not behaving in the same way in front of other people, like maybe an interviewer or something, or maybe few people. So whenever I talk to people, be it anyone, this is the way I talk. I'll share these anecdotes and I'll share my experiences. I'll share what I'm learning. Sometimes I speak a lot, but which I shouldn't. I'm trying. Still, it's an iterative process. I'm learning. So,
But have you done a lot of like public speaking presentations, like technical stuff? No, never. Okay.
This is what I'm doing. So all the public speaking which I've learned is just from talking to random people. So you were telling me about like how you meet interesting people. So I was in Himalayas last year, and there's this small offbeat place.
Did you do like the Mount Everest?
No. There are like a lot of small.
Himalayas is big, I guess.
Yeah. So there are small hikes. So I was in this village, very small village, offbeat kind of place, not a lot of tourists. I was in that village, and because I recently learned magic trick, and I was like, you know what? Let's go to people, approach people. That was the first time I encountered people after my whole journey of 2020, 21, 22.
Okay.
So I was in my home for like 2 years, never went out. to any place for like those 2 years. But in 2023, that was the first time I went out, and I was like, you know what? Because I learned a lot of things in last 2 years, I want to execute all these things. I went out, I approached everyone. I was like, you know what? Hey, hi, how are you? I think you are really good. And what do you do? He's like, I work in Oracle as a software engineer. Like, that's so cool.
A branded person in a village in the Himalayas?
No. He was other tourist.
Oh,
yeah, he was a fellow tourist. I'll come to the villagers also.
Okay.
And I was like, you know what? I have something interesting to show you. Do you have 5 minutes? I was like, yeah, sure. I pull out my cards and I went for like 1 hour.
No, just talking to
a
this
lot
person?
of people.
Oh, people come around.
People come around, and I met people from like prominent places. Prominent people. Like he was an eye doctor. Opthol, and he was running a cafe there.
Okay.
He left his place, and I met a lot of cool people. And then I went for a hike. I was on the almost on the top of the hike, almost in the end. I see a small hut, a small shed kind of thing. There was a guy inside, and he was sleeping on the bed. And someone just told me that, you know what, when you go there, there's a guy, you should definitely meet him. I was like, yeah, sure. And I was like, hey, hi. I was talking to this guy, and he mentioned your name, and his name was Bharat.
Okay. I feel like I'm in for like a biblical story here. This is like, you know, it sounds like a something you hear in like the Buddha tome or whatever.
Yeah. So
okay.
His name was Bharat, and he was PhD in physics.
Okay.
And he is living in the shed with a small gas stove, small bed, untidy and something like, you know, it's just a made up camp sort of thing.
Yeah, very Spartan.
Yeah. And he's like, hey, hi, my name is Lakshay, and he told me to meet you. I was talking in Hindi. So, and he was telling me a lot of the things about you. And because at that time I was listening to a lot of Jordan Peterson, Sam Harris, and a lot of these people because I was so much into podcasting.
Mm-hmm.
I meet this guy. We start talking about all the things. We start talking about real philosophy, like what is free will, what is determinism versus free will, what's a debate. And he had a podcast named Philosophy. So Philosophy.
Okay.
So it's a funny way of saying philosophy in Hindi. So
okay.
So Philosophy, and he was doing a podcast. And
did he record you while you were talking up there in the mountain? No. Okay, you were on it, I guess.
Maybe I'm on a podcast. He did record me, and I don't know about it. So anyway, I was in his shed, and there were 4 people sitting outside. They were like, we talked for like 1.5 hours. It was about to rain, and I said, guys, you can just leave. They were my friends. I knew them. I was like, no, we are loving whatever you guys are talking.
They're just listening. Like
the conversation. Listening, yeah. And so you meet these kind of people, and this is how I learned how to talk to people. It's just giving them good experiences and having a nice time. Just make them happy. That's it.
Mm-hmm. If that's your goal when you start a conversation with somebody, because I've had the random question is like, what's the point of talking to somebody? That was the question. Yeah. You know, if you have to pick usually you think, oh, did you get information that's horribly stale. That's like not any kind of, that doesn't need a conversation to happen. But if the goal is to make the other person happy or make there's some kind of like emotional output from it, that changes the entire game, and it becomes a much more powerful sort of experience. You know,
right.
One I've seen.
No, you're right.
There's another thing that I'm becoming aware of is that a lot of this, I'm going to call it enlightenment or whatever, these changes that come through have happened because of a time of intense solitude, of intense aloneness.
I had this question written here, but okay. I think let's talk about it, like the difference between loneliness and solitude, and how when you want to become something else. Because I was talking that I'm involved in all these things because I don't want to date right now. I don't think I'm in a position. But do you think this solitude and this loneliness is good for you? And if it's good, how do you deal with it? So I will let you speak on this.
Well, if you're not afraid of it, if you see it as like a resource, me personally, I love solitude. You know, it's a close friend of mine, you know, and there's a book I read, a science fiction book called We Are Bob. It's a weird one. I don't want to give away too much about it because it was spoiled books on the internet. But the person enters a lot of time of like just him being alone, you know, and I'm like, oh, this sounds wonderful, you know, maybe less so now than it used to. But it's like, if you can not be afraid of that, then you're free to kind of go beyond it, if that makes sense. So in my life, there was a time around 2015 where I essentially was working on an abandoned island every day for 4 months. There was some kind of like state shutdown. I was working for NJDOT, and I had to still monitor the slope of some island that was receiving dirt, whatever. Boring stuff. I would go out there on the island with my little inclinometer. I'd go do that, and I do that all day, and that would be it. It would take all day, every day that I have to do this. But that time of intense solitude, I don't know what it did. I don't know if it was just like there's something magic about it that kind of allowed me to level up mentally. My girlfriend, the same kind of thing. On that same bay that I was doing this like slope stabilization thing on, she spent an entire I think like 3 or 4 months like on an island isolated away from people doing a turtle study because she's an environmental scientist. So she had an intense amount of time alone, and there's something about going through that maybe it unfetters your mind in such a way that you're able to start thinking differently in some sort of way. When you're like in the weeds, as it were, your mental shelf space is totally full up. There's no silence. There's no break. Well, that could be productive, and that's where you got to live like most of the time. Taking time for that solitude in a real and meaningful way can be an incredibly powerful tool. I found that I like to take that on.
Then how do you deal with this problem of feeling of missing out, right?
The FOMO?
Yeah, FOMO, yeah.
That has never really had a strong effect on me. That's I don't know if there's like advertising languages that work for people, or like there's like if other people are doing it, then you should do it. I can't remember what that's called, like social proof. That was the one. That doesn't really work on me too well because I kind of am like a hipster, and I'm like, oh yeah, if they're doing it, I don't want to do it. I want to do the thing that's like bespoke and small. So FOMO really hasn't hit me too hard when it comes to like, especially with time spent, because time spent in solitude I see as a very productive way if I'm doing it, because it'll recharge me. It'll like do all these other kind of things. I don't know. That's as far as I have really thought about that one. How about you? Do you get hit with FOMO for your solitude time? What is it? COVID was the best excuse because you could just.
I was in the solitude, I would say, and that was a best experience. But after that, when I came out, I have been in this spiral where sometimes I feel that FOMO, but I can get myself back to that solitude kind of thing, but it's difficult. And I think like after hearing you, and I'm realizing that I need to work on this thing and get that flow again. And I think I'll get it. I'm working on it, since I think this podcast is helping me a lot to get on that, because when you start working on yourself, you don't have time to think about these experiences where you feel that you are missing out on.
Yeah, and it's if you're too busy to fear,
And this is what I was, and I was busy. I was working out. I was focusing on my health. I was focusing on my trading, learning skills and everything. And I didn't have time to think about all these things. I was on social media, fucks up your brain.
Well, that's part of why it's a vampire. It uses all these psychological tools to get you to do X, Y, and Z. Spend more time on it. Buy the things that their advertisers are there for. For me, it's the whatever it provides in terms of like the dopamine release is just not worth it. There's a lot more things in my life if you can kind of decouple yourself from dopamine being the driver of your life satisfaction, I don't know that that's ever possible, because we're kind of just like clockwork creatures that run on this juice, so I don't really know. But there are things you can do, like those reframes that'll help keep that at bay. I struggle with sugar as mine. I mean, who doesn't? Yeah. But that's that.
No, I'm actually definitely going to focus on this, because I'm going to decrease my social media time now. And so I did this.
Unless it's for work, unless you're posting for those reasons.
I did this because last year when I was creating the same kind of content, I gave my social media account to my friend. Okay. And I used to send him the video. I used to work on the edits and send him the video. He used to upload everything, and he was just helping me out. And he's coming to Boston this September, and I'm going to give everything to him. Okay. He'll just handle everything, because I have 2 accounts I need to manage. So, yeah. He's going to do everything now. And I think I just learned a lot of things from you, man. And I got a lot of realizations. And I'm in that thinking zone right now, and motivated too.
Well, that's the attitude you take from here. Yeah. None of the things that I've been through should be replicated, but I think you're wise enough to know that wholesale.
What is helpful for me, and what I can learn from this and implement in my life. So thank you so much. I think I have talked about a lot of stuff, And I really want to do a round 2 sometime.
Yeah, hell
And,
yeah.
I'll come up with a lot of interesting topics, and let's do a round 2.
Yeah, if there's more specific things you want to get into, like there's a handful of things that we never really talked about, like architecting skill stacks, or if you ever want to talk about grade crossing safety, if you want to get very specific on my technical details.
that I can do. But you know what? For that, I really want to have a bigger audience so that they want to listen to this thing.
I don't know if you want the railroad people on your podcast. It's a whole breed. No offense. They're my they're my bread and butter.
Bread and butter. Yeah, actually, this is what you are all doing for them, right? So
big time.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this, Asim, and I really learned a lot of things. I realized a lot of things, and I know what to do now. And
my vibe's been set for the next month at least. Because talking to you like that, I mean, you hear it from the audiobooks, but then when you actually have someone you meet, like another wizard, our power multiplies.
Yeah, actually, you learn, you have a different perspective, because I think this is what I've heard from someone, that when you read a book, you are getting the perspective of that person's whole life, and if you are mindful enough,
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So, and if you're mindful enough about that thing, and if you are reading that perspective of that person, you're going to learn a lot of things from that thing. Mm-hmm. And that's why I want to start reading books. I want to start listening to a lot of podcasts and talk to a lot of people, rather than engaging on these shorts and reels and memes.
Long form. Long form is good. But you got to, I guess, crawl before you can, whatever this is, marathon.
You need that, you need your life to be slow. Reels and short form content makes your life very fast paced, and sometimes fucks with your brain. Sometimes it do help, because I get those small motivations from those reels, from Jordan Peterson, I am listening to this philosopher called Osho.
Okay.
Osho. I'm listening to him, and so it helps too. But again, thank you so much for doing this, and I really want to do a round 2 with you. I don't know how this will go, but I hope this goes well, and
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks.